A woman steps into the street and starts to dance. She doesn't stop for days. She can't stop. This happened in Strasbourg in the summer of 1518. The woman's name was Frau Trophea. Witnesses said she began dancing with no music, no celebration, no explanation, just her body moving in the street hour after hour. By the end of the first day, she hadn't stopped. By the end of the first week, she still hadn't stopped, and her feet were reportedly bleeding through her shoes. City records from the time confirmed this wasn't rumor. It was documented in detail by physicians who watched it happen, and Frau Trophea wasn't the only one. Within a week, dozens of people had joined her, not dancing with her, dancing like her, compelled, seemingly against their own will, in the same streets. Within a month, historical accounts put the number at around 400 people, 400 residents of a single city, dancing uncontrollably, day after day, with no music playing and no festival to explain it. Local physicians were brought in to examine the afflicted, and their diagnosis somehow made everything worse. The doctors of Strasbourg ruled out possession. They ruled out the stars. Their official conclusion was that the dancers had hot blood, and that the only cure was to let the sickness burn itself out through more dancing. So the city didn't try to stop them. It helped them. Authorities built wooden stages in the marketplace. They hired musicians to keep the rhythm going. They believed sincerely that encouraging the dancing was a form of medical treatment. For weeks, the city of Strasbourg orchestrated its own mass affliction, guided by trumpets and drums, and people kept collapsing. Because dancing without rest doesn't just exhaust you, it can kill you. Historical accounts from the period describe dancers dying from heart attacks, strokes, and complete physical collapse. Some reports claiming as many as 15 deaths a day at the peak of the outbreak. City officials, realizing the cure was actively killing people, eventually reversed course entirely. Music was banned, the stages were torn down, the afflicted were sent away to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus, a saint associated, in the folklore of the time, with a curse that could force victims to dance without control. So what actually caused this? Modern researchers have proposed a few competing explanations, and none of them fully close the case. One theory points to ergot, a toxic mold that grows on damp rye grain, capable of causing convulsions, hallucinations, and spasms in anyone who eats bread made from contaminated flour. It's possible. But ergot poisoning tends to cause violent, jerking spasms, not the sustained, rhythmic dancing described in the records. The other leading theory is mass psychogenic illness, a form of collective psychological stress so severe it manifests as involuntary physical symptoms, spreading through a population the way panic can spread through a crowd. 1518 was a brutal year for Strasbourg. Famine, disease, and extreme hardship had already pushed the population to its breaking point. Under enough collective stress, some researchers argue, the mind can force the body into behavior it never consciously chose. Both theories have support. Neither one has proof. We know 400 people danced. We know some of them died doing it. We know the city's own physicians made the outbreak worse by actively encouraging it. And after nearly 2 months, as suddenly as it began, the dancing simply stopped, with no clear medical intervention and no explanation recorded for why it ended when it did. 500 years later, historians still don't agree on what the dancing plague of 1518 actually was, which means we are not looking at an ancient superstition we've outgrown. We are looking at a fully documented event recorded by trained physicians that modern medicine still cannot completely explain. 400 people's bodies did something their minds insisted they didn't choose, and half a millennium of science hasn't fully told us why. We like to believe the mind is something we control completely. that whatever happens to our body starts as a decision we make first. But for 2 months, in 1518, in the streets of a single city, hundreds of people proved that isn't always true. Sometimes the body moves first, and the explanation never fully catches up.